Hello students, today we are going to learn about active and passive voice. It's a very important grammar topic and this video is created by Mrs. Alamu Kumar. We all know that sentence has two parts, a subject and a predicate. A verb is mandatory in a sentence and a predicate contains the verb. Now, in any sentence, every verb has a voice. It can either be active or passive. First, let us learn about active voice. A sentence is said to be in active voice when the subject does the action or else when an object receives the action. The active voice is nothing but the normal voice and it is used most of the time and it is used regularly in every sentence, almost every conversations. Here the subject is active and hence such sentences begin with the subject. The object receives the action of the verb. So it is called as active voice. Let us learn with an example. Ram killed Ravan. Subject is Ram, verb killed, object Ravan. In this sentence, Ram is the subject or subject is the doer of the action. Action word is verb killed. Okay, the action is passed on from the subject to the object. Sentence begins with the subject Ram and ends with the object Ravan and the action, that is verb, is in active voice. Let us make it more clear with another example. Now look at the sentence. George has submitted the form. What is the subject in the sentence? Yes, it is George. Verb of the sentence is has submitted and object the form. In the sentence, George is the subject, the doer of the action. The action is passed on from the subject to the object. So, has submitted is the verb which is the action done by George and it is passed to the object, the form. So, has submitted is in active voice and the sentence totally is in active voice. Let us go through more examples. First sentence, I celebrated the function. Here the subject is I. Verb is celebrated. Object is the function. Here the verb celebrated is done by the subject I and the object, the function, receives the action of the subject. The second sentence, Reena made a mistake. Here the subject is Reena, verb made and the object mistake. As I have said previously, Reena is doing the action made a mistake and the mistake, the object is the receiver of the action made. Now let us learn about passive voice. What is a passive voice? It is nothing but vice versa of active voice. That means when the subject receives the action or else when the object does the action. Okay, sentence is said to be in passive when the subject is acted upon. It is used very less. That is, when the subject receives the action, the subject is said to be passive. So, the sentence is in passive voice. Let us learn passive voice with some examples. As I already said, passive voice is vice versa of active voice, or otherwise we can say that the subject and object exchange their places in active and passive voice. Consider the example, Ravan was killed by Ram. Here the subject is Ravan, verb was killed, and the object is Ram. The subject in the AV, active voice, which is at the beginning of the sentence, becomes the object in the passive voice. Okay, so we have already learned Ram killed Ravan in active voice. It is converted to Ravan was killed by Ram in passive voice. So here the subject and object is exchanged. The subject in the active voice, which is at the beginning of the sentence, becomes the object in the passive voice, and hence it is placed at the end of the sentence in the passive voice. Likewise, object in the active voice, which is placed at the end of the sentence, becomes passive subject in the passive voice and is placed in the beginning of the passive voice sentence. Let's move to the second example. Second example in active voice was George has submitted the form. In the passive voice, it will become the form has been submitted by George. Here, the subject is the form, verb has been submitted, and the object is George. You can observe that the form is the subject here, but it allows itself to be submitted by the object George. Here the subject is passive. So the sentence is called passive voice. Passive voice is used when the focus is on the action. It is not important or not known, however, who or what is performing the. Let us make it clear with more examples. The function was celebrated with a great pomp. Here, the subject is the function, verb was celebrated, and there is no object here, because the function could be celebrated by me or by my family or by someone or by anyone. Don't get confused with a great pomp as an object here. It is the prepositional phrase. Okay, here the function is not given the focus. Was celebrated with a great pomp is given the focus because who celebrated is not given. So the function here is passive. Now the next example, a mistake was made. Again, here the focus is on the mistake that was made and not on who made the mistake. It is not blamed by anyone. Mistake is done by me, you, or anyone. So here focus is on the fact that the mistake was made. Let us learn the general form of active and passive voice, or the general structure of active and passive voice. First, let us focus on active voice. The general structure of active voice is subject plus verb plus object. So in a sentence where it is active voice, first will be the subject, then the verb, then the object. Now in passive voice, the structure is subject, that is object in the active voice. As I have already said, that subject and object will get exchanged. Finite form of to be, past participle form of the verb. The past participle is nothing else but the third form of the verb. Plus preposition. Preposition normally will be by, plus the object, that is subject in the active voice. Example of past participle is take, took, taken. So here taken, which is the third form, is otherwise called as past participle. This you have learned in smaller classes. Now let us learn the rules for changing active voice to passive voice. First, let us take assertive sentence. Assertive sentence is nothing but a declarative sentence. As I have already said, the object becomes the subject. So, if you are transforming an active voice sentence to a passive voice sentence, first thing you should know is to identify the subject and the object and exchange the subject and the object. So the rule 1 is object becomes the subject and subject becomes the object. Now the finite form of the verb is changed to participle form of the verb. In the last example I had given about the past participle form of the verb. Take, took and taken. So take and took is the finite form of the verb and taken is the past participle form of the verb. So in any verb, whichever verb it may be, you should convert it into the past participle form of the verb. And it is preceded by to be form. Now, what is to be form? To be form of the verbs are is, was, are, were, be, being and been. In our example, I have already told you take, took and taken. In that, taken is the past participle. It could be preceded by is. So, the verb will become is taken. If it is preceded by was, it will be was taken. If it is preceded by are, it will be are taken, were taken, etc. according to the subject-verb agreement. Subject-verb agreement means if the subject is in singular, verb also will be in singular. If the subject is in plural, verb also will become plural. So it depends upon the subject which to be form is to be used in the passive voice. Now let us learn with the explanation how to change active voice to passive voice. First example, Ram killed Ravan. Subject and object is to be exchanged. Killed is in past tense. It is changed to killed again. It is also in past participle also. It is preceded by the to be form of was. Because in active voice, killed is in past tense. Second sentence, George has submitted the form. The subject and the object is to be exchanged. Has submitted will be changing to be form of has submitted will be has been submitted. And the form is in singular, so it will be has been submitted. So the answer is the form has been submitted by George. Third sentence, I celebrated the function. celebrated is in past tense. I is the subject. Function is the object. So function and I, you have to exchange, and celebrated in past tense it will become was celebrated. So in passive voice it will become the function was celebrated by me. Fourth sentence, someone made a mistake. Someone is the subject, made is the verb which is in past tense, mistake is the object. You can exchange the subject and the object in the passive voice. Made will change to was made, and made is again the past participle form of the verb. So in passive voice it will become a mistake was made by someone. Now let us quickly view the verb patterns of passive voice. As I already said, the to be verb, it will be depending upon the subject and also the verb in the active voice. If the tense in the active voice is simple present, it will become is plus the past participle form of the verb, or am plus past participle form of the verb, or are plus past participle form of the verb. Is or am is used with the singular form, are is used with the plural form. If the tense in the active voice is simple past, and if it is singular, was plus past participle, and if it is plural, verb plus past participle. If the tense in active voice is simple future, then in passive voice it will become will or shall plus be plus the past participle form of the verb. Some more verb patterns of passive voice. If the tense is in present continuous or past continuous, the structure of present continuous tense in active voice will be is plus verb plus ing. But in passive voice, I have given the structure here, is plus being plus past participle, or am plus being plus past participle if it is singular subject. If it is plural subject, then are plus being plus past participle. Now in case it is past continuous, same structure were in active like was plus verb plus ing, but in passive was plus being plus past participle if it is singular. If it is plural, were plus being plus past participle. Now if the tense is in perfect tense, there are three types of perfect: present perfect, past perfect and future perfect. If it is present perfect, the structure of passive voice is has plus been plus past participle, or have plus been plus past participle according to the singular and plural respectively. If the tense is in past perfect, then had plus been plus past participle. Singular and plural both have the same past perfect, that is had. If it is in future perfect, will plus have plus been plus past participle, shall plus have plus been plus past participle. Let us have a comprehensive view of active voice and passive voice. If it is in simple present, takes or take in active verb will change to is taken or are taken in passive verb. Present continuous, is or are taking will change to is or are being taken. Now, what is this is and are? Is and are according to the subject of the sentence. If the subject is in singular, is should be used. If the subject is in plural, are is to be used. Now, present perfect. Active verb is has or have taken. If it is in singular, has, plural means have. Same in the case of passive verb. Singular means have, plural means have, but with to be form, that is has or have plus been plus past participle of take is taken. So passive verb will become has or have been taken. Now simple past, active verb will be took, passive verb will be was or were taken. Past continuous, was or were taking, and passive verb will be was or were being taken. Past perfect will be had taken and passive verb will be had been taken. Simple future will be will take and passive verb will be taken. Future perfect will be will have taken and passive verb of future perfect will be will have been taken. Now let us see how the pronouns are changed in active and passive voice. See, in the active voice or in the subjective case, if I am using I, in the objective it will become me. We will change to us. You, there is no change, you only. He will change to him. She will change to her. It, there is no change. They will change to them. Let us learn how to change active to passive through examples. First, let us check with the present tense. The first sentence is Terence plays football. Here the subject is Terence, verb is plays and object is football. Now the tense of the verb. It is in simple present tense. In passive, it will change into to be form plus past participle form of play. Now what is past participle form of play? It is played. Okay, so in passive it will become is or are played. As I have already said, subject and object will exchange. So football will become the subject and Terence the object. Now how the passive voice it will become? Football is played or are played. Since football is singular, it will become is played. So the sentence in passive will become football is played by Terence. Now the second sentence. Soumya is reading a famous novel. Subject is Soumya. Verb is reading. A famous novel is the object. The verb is reading is in present continuous tense. How present continuous tense will change in passive? To be form plus past participle. So since it is reading, it will change into is being read. And subject and object, it should be exchanged. So this passive voice will begin with a famous novel. So how the answer will become? A famous novel is being read by Soumya since famous novel is singular subject. Now the third one. They have received a beautifully wrapped parcel. Subject is they, verb have received, object a beautifully wrapped parcel. What is the tense of the verb here? It is present perfect tense. So present perfect tense, how it is going to be changed? Has or have plus been plus past participle form of receive, that is received. As usual, subject and object should exchange. So the subject will become a beautifully wrapped parcel. Okay, it is singular, so has or have should be used. It is has. So the sentence will be, a beautifully wrapped parcel has been received by them. Now let us learn examples of how to change a past tense of active voice to passive voice. First example, Reena typed a letter. Subject is Reena, verb is typed and object is a letter. So the verb typed here is in simple past tense. In passive, it will be was typed or were typed. Now, subject and object as usual you need to exchange. So here in passive voice, the subject will be a letter which is in singular. So the verb should be was typed and object will be by Reena. So in passive voice, the sentence will be a letter was typed by Reena. Now the next sentence, I was answering the calls. Here subject is I, object is the calls and verb is was answering, which is past continuous tense. Past continuous tense will change to was or were being the past participle, that is answered. Now here the subject and object you need to exchange. So in passive, subject will become the calls. The calls is plural. So it will be were being answered. So now the sentence, how the sentence you will get? The calls were being answered by me. Now the third sentence, she had narrated a story. She is the subject, had narrated the verb, a story is the object. Subject and object should be changed. Okay? And the past tense had narrated in passive will become had been narrated. Since it is past tense, there is no change even if it is a singular or a plural. Okay? So the sentence, how it will become? A story had been narrated by her. Now in the second and third example, what you have to notice, the pronoun. Okay, in the second sentence, I has changed to me, and in the third sentence, she has changed to her. Now let us see the examples of future tense. How future tense of active voice will change to passive voice. First example, we will present a song. Subject is we, will present is the verb, a song is the object. Now what is the tense of the verb? Will present is future tense, simple future tense. Subject and object we need to exchange. So in passive voice, the sentence begins with a song. Verb will be presented. Okay, so the sentence in the passive will become a song will be presented by us. Now the second sentence, they will have signed the documents by now. Subject is they, object is the documents, and verb will have signed. Will have signed is in which tense? It is in future perfect tense. By now is the prepositional phrase, so don't get confused with that. Okay, now how to change into passive? Object and the subject you need to exchange. Object is the documents, so the passive voice will begin with the documents. Okay, and verb will be changing into will have been signed. Okay, and the object will be by them. So how the passive voice will become? The documents will have been signed by now. And why I have put by them in the bracket is, if you require you can write, or otherwise you can omit it. Okay, so by now is important because it is a prepositional phrase, and by them means it is the subject. So it is okay if you, even if you avoid by them. Now let us learn interrogative sentence, how to change interrogative active voice to passive voice. Interrogative sentence are two types. Okay. One is verbal question and the second one is WH questions. What is a verbal question now? Verbal questions are otherwise called as yes or no questions. That is, if you ask the question, you will get yes or no as the answer. Or I will give you another clue how to identify verbal question. It begins with is, was, are, where, etc. And WH question begins with why, where, how and what. Now let us see the structure of the passive verbal questions. The structure is to be form of the verb. To be form of the verb means, as I have already told you, is, was, are, were, has, have, had, etc. plus object of the active voice. In active sentence, whatever be the object, that should come. Then comes the past participle form of the verb. Then comes the preposition by, and then comes the subject of the active voice. Let us learn how to change verbal questions of active voice to passive voice. First example, do you write stories? Since it starts with do, it is an yes or no question. The subject here is you. Verb do write and stories is the object. What is the tense of the verb? It is do write. So is or are to be form is used. Subject and object is to be exchanged. Stories will be the subject in the passive and you will be the object in the passive. Now can you tell me the past participle of write? It is written. So join all these words and you have to make the passive voice according to the structure. Okay, I think you remember the structure. So according to the structure, the passive voice will become are stories written by you. Why I used are? Since stories is in plural. Now the second sentence. Has he taken your permission? Here the subject is he, your permission is the object and has taken is the verb. Now identify the tense of the verb. It is present perfect tense. Present perfect in passive will change to has been taken. Subject and object you need to exchange. Now according to the structure of the question in passive, the passive voice of the statement will be has your permission been taken by him? Now the third one. Did you write stories? Do you find any similarity with the first sentence? It is similar. Only the tense is changed to simple past. Did write is in simple past. So in passive it will be was or were, and since stories is in plural it will be were stories written by you. Now the next sentence, had he taken your permission? It is also similar to the second statement. Only thing is has taken has changed to had taken, which is past perfect. So in passive it will be had your permission been taken by him. Now the fifth one. Will you write stories? Again in the same way as the first, third. Only thing is will write is in simple future tense. So the passive voice will become will stories be written by you? Let us learn the structure of passive WH questions. The structure of passive WH question is WH question whatever we have, what, why, how, etc. plus to be form plus object in the active voice plus past participle form of the verb plus preposition plus subject in active voice. If who is the question word, then how the structure will be? The structure will be by whom plus to be form plus object in the active voice plus past participle form of the verb. Let us learn how WH question is changed from active voice to passive voice. First question, who does not obey you? Since WH starts with who, it will in the passive voice, it will change to by whom. Structure, by whom plus to be form plus object in active voice plus past participle form of the verb. So here it will change to by whom are you not obeyed? Why I have used are, even though you is singular means it is second person pronoun. Now the second question. Which newspaper do you read? Here the subject is you, verb is read, newspaper is the object and it is in simple present tense. In passive voice, which will be same as which only and the structure will be which plus to be form plus object in AV that is newspaper, then past participle form of read that is read, preposition by and the subject you. So the passive voice will be which is the newspaper read by you. Now the third one. Who did not obey you? Again it is similar to the first statement. And who? It is the WH question. So passive voice it will be by whom. Instead of are we should use where because did is in the simple past tense. So in passive it will be by whom were you not obeyed. Now let us consider the next example. Which newspaper did you read? It is same as the second statement. Only thing is this is in simple past since we have used did. So it will be which was the newspaper read by you. Fifth example, where will they take you? Will is in simple future. How it will change then? Where will be where only, to be form, object, past participle, preposition and subject. So it will be where will you be taken? Let us learn how to change imperative sentence into passive voice. Imperative sentence is nothing but to give an advice, to give an order or to give a request. In the imperative sentence, the subject is normally not mentioned and it is understood as you. Let us learn the structure of the imperative sentence. Let plus object in active voice plus to be form of the verb plus past participle form of the verb. Should be or are to be also could be used in imperative passive voice. Let us make it clear with examples. How to change active voice imperative to passive voice imperative. First example is close the door. It is an order and the subject you is not mentioned in active voice. In passive voice, it is changed as let the door be closed according to the structure. Now the second statement is may God bless you. In passive, it is changed as may you be blessed. Here, by God is not mentioned because it is understood that it is used as by God. The third sentence is match the pairs. In passive, it is converted as let the pairs be matched. Fourth sentence, think twice before reacting. In passive, it should be thought twice before reacting. Thank you for watching this. Hope you understood how to change active voice to passive voice. Do not forget to like and share and subscribe my channel.